What's up, everybody? In this video, I'm going to show you how to work with join tables in SQL Server. Okay, so this is a common interview question um, that you might come across dealing with SQL. Is essentially, let's say that you have a database and you have two tables. So usually the example they might use would be something like students and courses. And the student table would simply have like a student ID and a name column, while the courses table would just contain a course ID, a course name, and a number of credits. So there is no direct relationship between the tables, and each one of them actually has a many to many relationship. I mean, in other words, each course can have many students, and each student can have many courses. So, how do we deal with that? And the answer to that is to create a join table. So, the first thing I want to do is I've got my sample DB open here, and I'm going to create two new tables here. So, I'm just going to go to tables, right click, and go new table. And we just call it student. This will be the students table. So, student ID. And I'm going to make that my primary key and set it up um, for auto incrementing. Okay, so and then all I need is just the student name. So we can just put full name in that column, and then I'm going to save that, and we're going to call that our student table. Now I need also a table to hold courses, so I'm going to course ID, and once again that's going to be int. Set the primary key, and we'll go to our identity specification. Set that to yes. And then I need a course name and credits. So keeping it really simple just to demonstrate the concept here. So I'll go ahead and save my course table as course. Come down and refresh my tables. And now I have, let me just close that. I have two tables here. So course and student. And you can see, suppose my challenge was, okay, I want to, find a particular student and find out how many, what courses they're enrolled in, or how many credits they're enrolled in, and things like that. There is no direct relationship between these two tables. So, how do we go about that? Well, the answer is we need to actually create a third table. So I'm going to go down to tables again, and I'm going to create a new table. And for this, I'm going to put in a student ID and not null, and a course ID. And now I'm going to select both of these columns and set my primary key. And I'm going to save that student. We can actually make them both plural, so students, courses. So that's what's going to be my join table. So let me refresh this. Now, when I come in here, I've got a primary key, so it's going to be unique. In other words, this combination here, if I have student ID is, let's say it's 1, and course ID is 1, well, primary key needs to be unique. So the combination of these two values has to be unique. So it will not allow me to put the same student in the same class, the same course, more than once, and that kind of thing. And we'll see that as we go along. So let's go ahead and populate our our student table. So um, let me try that again. So we are going to edit top 200 rows. So, and I'm just going to go ahead and put in uh, okay. So we've got we have 4 students here, and we don't even need to get too fancy with the names or anything. We just want to see um, have some data to work with here. So now I'm going to go up to courses, and let's go ahead and enter a few courses. So of course, you don't put anything in the course ID column because it's auto-generated. So we can say English, and that's got 3 credits. Um, Physics, 4 credits. Calculus, 5 credits. And we'll say uh, computer science. We'll call it, how about C sharp? And we'll call that 3 credits. Okay, so now we've got some courses that we can work with. So now the challenge is, um, well, let's go ahead and enroll some students in some courses. So we'll go to our students courses table. So we just take student ID 1, and we're going to, let me just keep my courses window open. So um, so we're going to, and well, let me get my student window, keep that open. Okay, so we'll take Daniel, and we're going to enroll him in course 1. And now we'll take Daniel, and we'll try to do this again, and you'll see primary key constraint violation. So that takes care of us. We don't want the same student to be enrolled in the same course more than once, right? So we'll say we'll enroll him in course 2, and so we'll also enroll Daniel in course 3. Oops. Got to get rid of that null. Okay, so in course 3. So now, so for Daniel, he's enrolled in 3 courses. That would be English, physics, and calculus, and a total credits of 12 credits. So now let's go to, well, student number 2 is just taking, we'll say course ID 4, and student number 3 would be taking courses 2 and 3 and 4, 1, 4, 2, 4, 3, 4, 4, and that's all the students that we have. So Jill is enrolled in all the courses. Um, John is enrolled in 2 courses. Amy is enrolled in 1 course, and Daniel's enrolled in 3 courses. So now let's take a look. We've got our join tables. We got all of our data, our join table set up, and everything. So let's close out of this. And so now I want to see, first of all, I want to see who's enrolled in, everybody that's enrolled in all of their courses. So I'm going to open a new query window. So what I need to do is set up a SQL statement, and I'm going to use my students courses table, my join table, to join these 2 tables. So I'm just going to say, start out with select star from student S. I'm going to give it an alias, and that will be S. And now I'm going to join students courses. Oops. And we'll just alias that as SC on S dot student ID equals SC dot student ID. And now I can join my course table to my students courses. So join course C on SC dot course ID equals C dot course ID. Okay, so I run that. Now that gives me everything from both tables. It's also going to give me everything from my students courses table, which is kind of repetitive. We don't need to see course ID and student ID um, twice, but this just shows you this is returning everything. So you can see all of the courses and all of the students, everything that Daniel's enrolled in, and everybody else. So now let's say that we just want to get the student name and the student ID and the student name, and the courses that they're enrolled in. So in other words, let's get rid of the extra course ID and student ID that we get from our join table. So I can use my alias and say s dot student ID, and then s dot name, c dot course ID, c dot course name, and c dot credits. So let's fire that up. So we've gotten rid of our duplicate columns. So now it's a little bit easier to read here. So um, now if I want to see just what one particular student's courses are, I can filter that out by the student ID. So where s dot student ID equals 1, or 2, whatever it is, to see which courses a particular student is enrolled in. So let me go back and execute our all. Okay, so now let's say this first student, Daniel, let's say I want to just know how many credits. I want my student ID, my name, and just how many credits he's enrolled in. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. And so we need our student name or our student ID, our student name. We don't need the course ID or the course name, but we need a sum of our credits. So that's going to be an aggregate function. So let me just put that in parentheses. So now if I tried to execute this, it's going to crash because it's going to say that I need to do a group by. Student.student ID is invalid in the select list because it's not contained in either an aggregate function or the group by clause. So what I need to do is add these two columns to my group by. So group by s dot student ID, s dot name, and hit F5. And I did not actually, I do need to filter for the particular student too. This is giving everybody and their sum of their credits. I should also give this column a name so it doesn't say no column name in parentheses. So, credits, I guess we can just call it that. And so this tells me all, the number of credits that each student is enrolled in. Now, if I want to filter this, I need to put this before my group by, so I can just say where s dot student ID equals 1. So that told me that Daniel's student ID is enrolled in 12 credits. Okay, so now let's switch it up a little bit. Suppose that I just want to know how many students are enrolled in each course. So I'm going to write a new select statement here. So it's going to be something like select. I'll start with my select star from, so I can get my alias. So course C. So now I can get rid of my star, and I want to just say C dot course name. We could add course ID as well. So we're going to select our ID and our course name. And we also need to get a count from our students. So I'm just going to say count star from course C. And now I'm going to do my joins. So join students courses, SC on C dot course ID equals SC dot course ID. And now join my student table, student S on SC dot student ID equals S dot student ID. And then I just need to add my group by. So I need to group by the two columns that are not contained in my aggregate statement. So group by course ID and course name. So, and once again, for my count, I should give it a meaningful column name. So we'll call that students. So, so this is it. We have our four courses, and English has two students, physics has three, calculus has three, and C sharp has two. Okay, so that wraps it up for this video. If you like this video, please go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe, and I will see you next time.